On a fall evening, Olivia Carter walked into a small lakeside cafe, enjoying the aroma of coffee mixed with cinnamon. She sat by the window, ready to immerse herself in reading, but soon realized that she was being watched. A tall man with dark brown hair and a mysterious gaze, sitting a few tables ahead, seemed more interested in her than in his cup of coffee. Feeling a slight shiver, Olivia tried to ignore it, but minutes later he stood up and walked towards her. "Sorry to bother you, but I swear I know you from somewhere." His voice was deep and engaging, carrying a casual tone that hid a deeper intention. She smiled, amused. "I think this is the worst pickup line I've ever heard." He laughed, running his hand through his hair as if trying to explain himself. "It wasn't a pickup line, I swear. But now that you mention it..." He tilted his head slightly, analyzing it. "I think it would be a mistake not to ask your name." "Olivia. Olivia Carter." "Donald Reed." He smiled, and there was something about that smile that made her feel an unexpected warmth in her chest. The conversation flowed naturally. Donald was witty, intelligent, and had a subtle humor that made her laugh effortlessly. He wasn't the kind of man who gave it all at once. Each answer came with a touch of mystery, as if there were more layers to be discovered. "So, Olivia Carter, what brings you to this coffee on a night like this?" "I like quiet places. Sometimes the world outside seems too noisy." He nodded slowly, as if he understood exactly what she meant. "Me too. Places like this make us forget, for a moment, everything that exists beyond these walls." She noticed that his eyes had a passing shadow, a weight that he tried to hide. "You speak like someone who has a lot to forget." Donald smiled askance, but didn't answer right away. "Maybe. What about you? Any regrets?" "Some. But I prefer to believe that the past does not define who we are." There was a moment of silence between them. Not an uncomfortable silence, but loaded with something that neither one nor the other could name. The night wore on, and before they knew it, the cafe was closing. Olivia couldn't explain it, but she felt like she had found someone special. Donald walked her to the door, hesitating before saying goodbye. "It was a good conversation. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet here again." "Who knows?" She smiled, already knowing that the answer was yes. As he walked away, Olivia felt a shiver. There was something about him, something that made her want to get to know him more, and at the same time, something that warned her to be careful. She just didn't know that her life would never be the same after that night. Here is the continuation of the story. The next few days passed like a blur in Olivia's mind. She and Donald began to meet frequently at the cafe, sometimes by chance, sometimes because one of them simply knew the other would be there. What started as casual conversation soon turned into something deeper. Donald was unlike anyone Olivia had ever met. He was thoughtful without being invasive, funny without being forced, and always seemed to see beyond the words she said. But there was something about him that intrigued her, a shadow in her eyes, a hesitation when she talked about her own past. One night, after a long day at work, Olivia found him waiting for her at the entrance of the coffee. "I thought you might want a company for dinner." He smiled, lifting a paper bag. "Do you read minds now?" she joked, accepting the offer. They sat on a bench near the lake, where the city seemed far away and the sound of the water calmed their thoughts. Between mouthfuls, Donald looked away from the horizon, as if he were watching something invisible. "You never tell me about your life before here," Olivia commented casually. He was silent for a moment, twirling a silver ring on his finger. Some things are better when left in the past. She wanted to insist, but something in her tone made her back off. Maybe they all had secrets. Maybe he had his. And then, as if to dispel any suspicion, Donald smiled and changed the subject. And Olivia, against all her intuitions, chose to believe that it meant nothing. She just didn't know that she would soon have to face the truth, and that her life would never be the same again. Here is the continuation of the story. Olivia has always considered herself a rational woman. But with Donald, it was as if all the rules she followed simply ceased to exist. Each encounter seemed like an invitation to something unknown, a mystery that pulled her closer to him. And despite the overwhelming chemistry between the two, something inside her said there was more to this story than he let on. That night, As they walked together to the parking lot after dinner, Olivia noticed that Donald looked tense. He looked discreetly around as if he were tracking something. "Are you okay?" she asked, stopping next to him. He hesitated for a moment, but then smiled as if trying to reassure her. "I'm just making sure you're safe." The answer should have been reassuring, but instead, it sent a chill down Olivia's spine. When they got to his car, Donald unlocked the door and waited for it to get in first. But before he could open the passenger door, a metallic reflection caught his eye on the window pane. Someone was watching them. Olivia turned quickly, but the street was empty. No movement, no sound but the wind cutting through the silence of the night. "Donald." "I know," he interrupted, his voice lower, more serious. Did he know? Before she could ask, he held her hand firmly and guided her into the car. "Buckle up. Let's get out of here." She obeyed without question, feeling her heart race. The way he drove, too attentive, looking in the mirrors every minute, only made his restlessness grow. "What's going on?" she finally asked. He took a few seconds to answer, as if he were choosing his words carefully. "I just want to make sure you're safe." "Safe from what?" He did not answer, and it was at that moment that Olivia noticed something scary. She was beginning to fall in love with a man who was hiding a dangerous secret. And maybe it was too late to turn back. The silence inside the car was dense, suffocating. Olivia felt her chest tightened, her heart beating in the fast pace of the city that passed blurred by the window. Donald steered with precision, his fingers steady on the steering wheel, his gaze fixed on the road. But Olivia could see the furtive glances in the rearview mirror, as if he were always on the lookout for something she couldn't see. "Donald, stop the car," she asked, her voice firmer than she expected. "I can't. Can't or won't you?" He took a deep breath, his jaw muscles tightening. "I can't involve you in this." "Too late, don't you think?" Olivia crossed her arms. "I want to know the truth." Donald did not answer. Instead, it sped up a little more, doubling to a less busy road. When he finally stopped in a nearly deserted parking lot, he turned off the engine and ran his hands over his face, as if trying to find the right words. "Olivia, I'm not who you think I am." Her heart froze. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. Then he opened the glove compartment and pulled out a crumpled envelope. When she handed it to Olivia, she felt her fingers tremble. He opened the envelope slowly, revealing an identity card different from the one he had seen before. The name was not Donald Reed. The photo was his, but the name, Ethan Calloway. Olivia's mind spun. Who the hell is Ethan Calloway? He sighed, as if that question carried an unbearable weight. "I was someone who made wrong decisions, and now there are people who want to make sure I never get a chance to fix them." Olivia felt a chill down her spine. People? What kind of people? He didn't have to answer. A beacon flashed in the parking lot, coming from a black car that had just stopped a few meters away. Donald looked at her, the tension on his face. "Olivia, if you trust me, we need to get out of here." Now she swallowed. I didn't know if I could trust him, but he also knew that if he stayed there, he might not have the chance to find out the truth. And then he made his decision. "Let's go." Donald sped up and the black car pulled off right behind them. That night was just beginning. Donald put the pedal to the metal and the car sped down the deserted road. In the rearview mirror, the headlights of the black vehicle shone like predatory eyes, quickly reducing the distance between them. "Hold on tight," he said, turning the steering wheel sharply. The car skidded on a sharp turn, almost leaving the track. Olivia clung to the dashboard, her heart racing. "Who are they?" she screamed. "People who want to wipe me off the map," Donald replied, dodging another car on the road. The black vehicle got even closer. One of the windows came down, and Olivia saw the metallic glow of a gun. "Donald!" Before the shot was fired, he made a sudden movement, leaving the line of sight. The stampede echoed through the night, the rear window shattering. Olivia screamed, cowering on the bench. "Donald's growing." He pulled the handbrake and spun the car around a sharp turn, entering a narrow side street. The chasing car tried to follow, but lost control, violently crashing into a pole. Donald didn't stop. It kept speeding until the city was behind them and they entered a deserted road surrounded by trees. Only then did he slow down, taking a deep breath. "Are you hurt?" he asked, looking quickly at Olivia. She trembled but shook her head. "Who are they, Donald? What did you do?" He closed his eyes for a second, as if he knew he couldn't run away from that conversation anymore. "I betrayed dangerous people, and now they want to make sure I pay for it." Olivia felt an icy shiver run down her spine. "And what happens to me now?" Donald stared at her, his expression gloomy. "You have two choices, Olivia. Or leave me here and pretend you never met me, or stay and find out the truth. But if he chooses to stay, there is no going back." Olivia's mind screamed for her to run away, but his heart had already made a decision. "Tell me everything." Donald sighed and started the car. "Then get ready, because this is just the beginning." The engine roared softly as Donald drove down a back road away from the city center. The silence inside the car was heavy. Olivia felt her chest tightened, but she knew she couldn't back down any longer. "Speak up, Donald. Who really are you?" She broke the silence. He took a deep breath, keeping his eyes on the road. "My real name is Ethan Calloway. A few years ago, I was working for a group, a kind of secret organization. At first, I thought it was part of something legitimate, protecting important information, but I soon realized that it was much worse. Olivia Franzu each." "What do you mean?" Donald squeezed the steering wheel harder. "They trafficked sensitive data, sold national security information to whoever paid the most. I found out too late. When I tried to leave, they turned me into a target." Olivia's stomach turned. "So, are you running from them all this time?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Not just running away, trying to survive." She tried to process all that. It was as if the person he knew had transformed before his eyes. "And why are they after you now?" Donald looked away quickly at her before returning to the road. "Because I have something they want. Something that can destroy them." Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. "What?" He hesitated. "A drive with enough information to dismantle the entire organization." Olivia blinked, stunned. "And where's that drive?" Donald opened his mouth to answer, but before he could say anything, the headlights of another car appeared in the rearview mirror. "Damn! They found us again!" He put the pedal to the metal. Olivia held onto the dashboard as the car sped down the road. "How do they know where we are?" Donald gritted his teeth. "Because they never stopped tracking me." The tires squealed on the asphalt when he made a sharp turn, trying to throw off the pursuers. But Olivia knew that the night was far from over, and now she was in the midst of something much bigger than she could have imagined, and perhaps it was too late to escape. The engine roared softly as Donald drove down a back road away from the city center. The silence inside the car was heavy. Olivia felt her chest tightened, but she knew she couldn't back down any longer. "Speak up, Donald. Who really are you?" She broke the silence. He took a deep breath, keeping his eyes on the road. "My real name is Ethan Calloway. A few years ago, I was working for a group, a kind of secret organization. At first, I thought it was part of something legitimate, protecting important information, but I soon realized that it was much worse." Olivia frowned. "What do you mean?" Donald squeezed the steering wheel harder. "They trafficked sensitive data, sold national security information to whoever paid the most. I found out too late. When I tried to leave, they turned me into a target." Olivia's stomach turned. "So, are you running from them all this time?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Not just running away, trying to survive." The siren in the distance kept growing, a muffled sound that made Olivia's heart beat faster. The dirt road was narrowing, and the surrounding trees became denser, blocking any view of the outside world. Donald's car was going faster and faster, but the black vehicle was still behind them, showing no signs of giving up. Olivia looked at him, the expression on Donald's face now mingled between determination and despair. He knew that the persecution would not end until they did something risky. "Donald, stop!" she screamed. "We can't go on like this!" He did not answer. He just looked at her for a moment before accelerating even more. "I know what I'm doing, Olivia. Stay calm." But the calm seemed like an illusion. With each turn, the sound of the siren grew louder, and the black car showed no signs of giving up. When they reached a point where the dirt road forked in two directions, Donald made a quick decision. "Hold on!" he ordered. With a sudden movement, he turned the steering wheel, entering the steepest and almost impassable trail. The car swayed, but he seemed to know exactly what he was doing. Olivia held on tightly, the feeling of vertigo washing over her. "You're crazy!" she screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of the engine. The car bounced over the holes and rocks, making Olivia's stomach turn. But when she looked back, she saw that the black car hesitated. I was not able to follow the same path. Donald was biding his time. However, the relief was short-lived. The sound of a gunshot cut through the air and the rear window of his car shattered. "Donald!" Olivia screamed, startled. He did not react. His eyes were fixed ahead, and with impressive rapidity he made an even sharper turn, up a small hill. The car swayed, but he didn't lose control. Olivia felt the heat of adrenaline wash over her as the realization that there was no way out became clearer by the second. The road ahead ended abruptly in a gorge. "Donald, stop!" Olivia asked, panic taking over, but Donald didn't seem to listen. He was so focused on the escape that the only thing that seemed to matter was to keep running. With each meter, the canyon approached. Olivia looked up at the horizon, where the abyss seemed to swallow everything around her. And then, a distinct sound cut through the air. Donald's voice, at last. "Now or never." With one last movement, he turned the steering wheel abruptly, veering off the cliff toward a side road, where a sudden turn made them disappear from sight. The black car, unable to follow the movement, stopped abruptly on the edge of the abyss just a few meters from the end. For a moment, the world seemed to slow down. Olivia looked at him, both panting, adrenaline still coursing through their bodies. She knew they were far from safe, but at that moment, something broke inside her. She didn't know what the future would bring, but she felt she couldn't live without the truth anymore. Olivia turned to Donald, taking a deep breath, her gaze now more serious. "So, what happens now?" Donald stared at the horizon for a long moment, as if preparing for one last internal struggle. "Now, Olivia, that's when the real battle begins." The sound of the engine turning off was like a weight falling on Olivia. The silence around them seemed immense, loaded with the weight of all the decisions that had been made. Donald's car was now on a small back road, away from the chase, but that didn't mean they were safe. Olivia watched the dark sky above, the stars hidden by the thick cloud cover. Tension was in the air, like a storm about to break loose. "Donald, tell me everything," she said finally. He looked at her, his eyes still strained, but now with a touch of vulnerability that she had never seen before. He looked like a man who had been through hell, and Olivia wondered how far he was willing to go to escape him. "I don't know if you're prepared to listen," he began, his voice low, almost hesitant. Olivia couldn't wait any longer. The weight of doubt, anger, and confusion was already taking over his being. She needed the truth, the whole truth. "Tell me, or I'll find out another way. I cannot continue to live in uncertainty." Donald swallowed, looked at her one last time, and then, with a grave expression, began to speak. "I was part of a larger network, Olivia. They used me, manipulated everything I believed to be true. The information I have, it can destroy everything. But for a long time, feared that by trying to wipe them out, I would wipe out all the people I love. I didn't want to involve you. I didn't want you." He stopped, his voice breaking. Olivia could no longer contain her words. "So, you involved me because you're afraid of losing control, but you're willing to lose everything around you to protect yourself?" Donald stared at her, a look of regret crossing his eyes. "Yes, I did it. And it's the thing I regret the most, not only of getting involved, but of not having been honest. I thought I could solve everything myself, that I could save you from all this. But now, I don't know what else to do." Olivia felt the harshness in his words, and also the weight of what he was saying. He had kept himself away, hiding the truth for so long. But now she knew that the only way to move on would be to confront this past once and for all. She took a deep breath, looking at the horizon, where the faint light of the moon was slowly beginning to emerge. "What should we do now?" she asked, the tone of her voice filled with a determination she didn't know she possessed until that moment. Donald looked at her, and for the first time she saw the pain and fatigue in his eyes. He knew that the choices from then on would be crucial, but he also knew that he had nowhere else to run. "I don't know if we can go back, Olivia. They know where we are, but we have to fight, both of us. And maybe, if we unite, we can end all of this. But you have to be willing to pay the price." Olivia looked at him, and for a moment thought about the life she could have, but something inside him ignited. The fear was there, of course, but there was also an unexpected strength, a certainty that next to Donald she had a chance. "I'm ready. Let's put an end to this. Together." Donald nodded slowly, a respectful expression in his eyes. "So, let's go. The game is just beginning." They looked at each other, knowing that the next few hours, the next few days, would be a relentless struggle. But that night, there was something else that united them. The truth was finally told, and now only one thing was certain. There was no turning back. And so we come to the end of this intense story full of twists and turns. Olivia and Donald are now more united than ever, with the weight of difficult choices and the courage to face the unknown. But what awaits them in the next phase of this perilous journey? The game is just beginning, and the biggest challenge is yet to come. Will they be able to destroy the organization that persecutes them? Or will the secrets that Donald hides still be his biggest obstacle? I know you're curious to know what's next, and you won't want to miss the next chapter of this electrifying plot. So, be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with all the news. Leave your like if you liked the story, share it with your friends, and don't forget to comment below telling us what you think of this twist. And of course, tell me where you're watching from. I want to know. Now, at the end of this video, a link will appear on the screen to the next chapter of this story. Click and find out what happens next. I'm sure you'll want to continue this journey with us. See you in the next video.